I went to Baylor when I was 17. I was really excited. I made a lot of good friends, but right when I got there, I met a guy that I fell in love with, and he was probably my first real, true boyfriend. And I think we dated for about 6 months before I came home from Baylor after my freshman year, and then I found out I was pregnant. I think I called my boyfriend at the time, who had just been the nicest guy in the world, and suddenly he turned on me. Just in a few minutes of the phone call after I told him, he told me to get an abortion and hung up on me. It was just shocking. I didn't know what to do. It was really scary.
So she comes home and tells us she's pregnant. Of course, that knocks the wind out of our sails, to say the least. I mean, you can only imagine. You have certain expectations for your daughter. She goes off to Baylor University and as a freshman and comes home pregnant.
When she did tell us that she was pregnant and said, 2 wrongs don't make a right, I'm going to choose to have this baby. So we all stood behind her brother, her sister, her dad, and I.
I knew that I had to remove her from the home so she could have the objectivity around her to make a decision as to whether or not keep the baby or place the baby for adoption. And I knew if she lived at home, we were going to be too subjective. But we didn't know where to send her, so we scrambled around and eventually found a maternity home outside of Tyler, Texas.
In the maternity home, there were, I think, about 10 or 11 girls, just teenage pregnant girls, that you go there and live until the baby's born. And you can either decide to give them up for adoption or take them home with you. It ended up being a really good experience, though, because it was just like me and God.
She came home at Christmas, a month before the baby's due. And she said, "Dad, could you have placed me for adoption?" And then I thought for a moment, I thought, that's a question I've never asked myself about any of my 3 kids. Of course not. I said, I couldn't, of course not, I couldn't place any of you for adoption. She said, "Well, I can't place the baby." I said, "Okay, then have him, bring him home."
Tara gave birth to Tyler at the maternity home in Texas. Then, 6 days later, they moved back to Connecticut to live with her parents.
It was really important to live with my family, and my siblings were young. They were 14 and 15. So it was just nice to have that covering.
I really threw myself in as a grandmother. Made sure that while Tara was at school, I was the primary caregiver.
Rivers and I knew that it was going to be difficult for Tara as a single mom to raise a child. I also knew the importance of having a very strong father figure in your life. And so when she made the commitment to keep Tyler, then we made a commitment that we were going to support them. But I said, I'm going to sow into him and provide him with a surrogate father figure to make sure that he knows that he's not a throwaway, that he's not unloved, that he's important.
While her parents were helping raise Tyler, Tara was able to finish her college degree in business and get a job with the New York Giants in community relations. 2 years later, she gets a call from the White House and accepts an internship in media affairs. After the internship ended, Tara decided to take Tyler and move back to Dallas.
God put people in my life that really stood in for what we were missing, and I really had to experience just life as a single mother.
As Tyler grew up, he started to get involved in sports. He also began to realize that there was something different about his family.
I was involved in lots of different sports, soccer, baseball, and all the fathers are incredibly involved. They're always at every practice, every game, and they're always kind of vouching for their kid. The fathers would sit on one side and the moms would sit on one side. So the fathers would all be there yelling, screaming, kind of pumping their kid up, yelling at them come on, you can do this, you got this. I remember thinking, well, why don't I have a father over there cheering me on? Why is every other kid on the team getting cheered on except me?
Tyler and his mom would take walks on the Katy Trail daily, and they would have discussions about Tyler wanting a dad.
On the Katy Trail, we would always have lots of great chats about wanting a dad.
My mom, when she would discuss these things about who my father should be and is going to be, she would always talk about how some man is going to come into our life eventually, and he's going to love us both equally, and that he is going to be a great father to me. And he's going to be a strong Christian man.
Then, Tyler and Tara's prayers were answered.
When I finally met Jacob, he just was such a great guy, and immediately he said he loved Tyler right away. And
Tyler wanted a father. He didn't have one, and I was really blessed and thankful that I got to help fill that role. And we just, we clicked kind of immediately. And honestly, I tried to put in as much effort to know that he was special and cared and loved just as much as his mother.
I really felt like I finally had family together. But even though through all of that, still lingering in the back of my mind was kind of the thought of never receiving the approval of my father. Because you could have everything. Like I've had a new father, mom, perfect family, but still in the back of my head, I was still thinking about my birth father.
Soon after the wedding, Tyler and his family moved back to Connecticut. Tyler immediately tried out for the freshman football team. Within a week of practicing, the coaches called him up to the varsity team.
About a month in practicing, all of a sudden, I ended up getting a concussion. So at that point, the doctors were like, no football for a certain amount of time. So that kind of sent me from being in an all-time high to a low. Then by the next year, the coach ended up putting me at a starting position on varsity as a sophomore at defensive tackle. And then at practice, I ended up getting hit 6 times in the head in this one drill. And then the last hit, I was just completely out of it. Like I was unresponsive to anything. So they called an ambulance and took me away.
Tyler woke up in the hospital and was told that he had a concussion that was worse than the one he had experienced the year before. His recovery protocol was 38 days of cocooning.
So for 38 days, I was stuck in a dark room all alone, just thinking these own thoughts. Couldn't use phones, no TV, no reading. So all alone in a dark room with all these thoughts that I am not, that I just lost everything. All of a sudden, from trying to seek approval from my father, all these things and approval from other people, it all came rushing back all while I was alone. So that was a very dark period. I was just very upset. I remember thinking, what am I gonna do to change my life? How am I gonna make myself valuable? And then I remember my grandfather actually told me this. He said, football does not bring you value. It does not define who you are as a person. Who you are inside is what defines you as a person and how God views you. The ultimate message that I ended up walking away with is that God loves me, He cares about me, and He's the most important. As I got these feelings and affirmation from God, the feelings of abandonment slowly started to disappear. Because once I realized that God is my Father, He is the ultimate Father to me. So my birth father's thoughts of me do not matter. The fact that he abandoned me does not matter.
I want to say to parents that you can do it. You can persevere. This is your legacy. And if you can grasp it and get your head around it and wrap yourself around this daughter and this child, you can do it. Sure, there were some very shaky moments and shaky months in there, and I really had to go inside of myself to find the strength that God could give me to get through just the emotional part. It's very layered, it's a little complex. I know there are so many stories out there, but parents, moms and dads, grandparents, you can do it. We're a walking family that it is possible. God is possible in all things, and that I don't know what we would do without our grandson. And just watching him grow to be such a fantastic young man. You will want that. Don't miss out on it. Don't miss out on that grandson or granddaughter that will bring you the most mysterious joy of your whole life. And it is about legacy, and it's about carrying on your family name, and that you have such an integral, pivotal time and point for these kids to speak wisdom, the wisdom of the elders, into these young people's lives as they are born, as they go through every season of their life. And to the young girls, I know that you are scared. I know that my daughter was scared to death. She was probably frantic, like, how am I going to tell my parents? And how is this all going to figure in? What am I going to do in my life? All these questions, I understand that. Even from a mother and a grandmother's point of view, I want to tell you there are people out there who can support you. If your parents are not in your life and you're looking at this question, there are so many resources, so many people that will come around and help you love yourself to get through this 9 months. And maybe your life is going to go on, and maybe you're going to find a forever family for your child. That's a beautiful thing too. What a scenario, adoption. It's so powerful and it's so redemptive. You, as a young mother, if you're pregnant and this is a crisis, God creates life, and life is not death. And there are millions of people that I know all over the globe that would love to walk beside you. So I'm going to tell the daughter that it is a doable, reachable goal, that you can be a wonderful mom to give this baby life, because that's what we are all about. Love, God is love, and we are love as family in the world. And just think through this. It's a very traumatic time, I know, but I want to say you can do it. You're an overcomer. I'm so proud of you and all the decisions that you're making.